What's up, everybody? Welcome into another Real Talk Ravens podcast episode. We're going to be recapping and giving some of our analysis of the Baltimore Ravens 2024 draft class, as well as some of the undrafted guys that we have signed so far up to this point. It is Sunday, April 28th, the day after the draft, and I'm joined here with Michael, and we're about to go ahead and get this thing going.
Yeah, it was another great draft by a great general manager. I don't think too many Ravens fans are going to be left complaining at this point after the draft, and then after the draft with undrafted rookie signings as well. I feel like this was probably one of Eric DeCosta's most complete draft seasons to date. Maybe not the best yet. Obviously, we have to see it play out. But I feel better about this draft before OTAs than probably any other draft we've had.
Yeah, it just felt like some guys that fell to us. I didn't think or didn't expect them to really get to us, and the board just fell the right way for the positions of need for us. The only position that we didn't really address at a higher draft pick value was the receiver position. We kind of waited till day 3 to get into that, but I think overall I'm really pleased with how things turned out. I think we addressed 2 big positions of need in our first 2 picks with corner and offensive tackle. So, without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into that first pick at number 30. We wound up with Nate Wiggins, corner from Clemson. I think many regarded him as probably the consensus number 2 corner in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Just a really nice long corner. Dude ran a 4.28, I think, at the draft or at the combine, and
really fast dude.
Yeah, he is known for his makeup speed, and I think that's really important in the NFL with how fast these receivers are nowadays. And in our division, we're going to have some really good receivers to go against. So even if he gets beat initially on a route, he's able to make up for it.
Yeah, I think it was really interesting, actually. Before the draft, I had tuned into the Ravens Vault live thing that they had going on, and at one point they had Marlon Humphrey on, and he had actually said that Nate Wiggins would probably be the corner he thinks would fit best in the Ravens if they went cornerback, just because of his speed and how we already have Brandon Stevens and Marlon Humphrey, and just like how he can kind of grow and learn from them. I think that honestly, Nate Wiggins is probably like the most Ravens pick I could have seen in the first round.
Yeah, I mean, if he can follow any of the corners that we've drafted over the time of our franchise in the first round, I mean, if he can at least live up to that and compare with those guys, I think we're definitely set for the future.
I've noticed a little bit of an ACC trend with EDC over the last couple of years. So
yeah, I mean, they said Trent Simpson was the first Clemson player that we drafted ever, and then back-to-back years now we've got a Clemson draft pick,
and then a Carolina draft pick.
North Carolina,
yep.
And so I think the biggest weakness about Nate Wiggins is definitely going to be his weight and his strength, because he's only at like 185 pounds. He played at 170 or 175 at Clemson, and so he's gained about 10 pounds since when they weighed him at the pro day. I think they said the biggest thing for him is just going to be putting on weight, getting into that NFL strength program with the Ravens, and putting on that weight so that he can handle the NFL receivers' strength and that play strength that he's going to have to go against.
Trenton Simpson, even though they don't play the same position, it'll be good to kind of have someone who he was familiar with a year ahead of him who can kind of maybe help him. I don't know. It's just an interesting thought.
They saw Nate Wiggins came in that first day after he got picked, and the first guy to come meet him out of the car was Trenton Simpson there at the castle. So that was pretty cool to see 2 teammates that play together and good friends, it looks like. So I think he'll be able to, help him with that transition. But just going into it a little bit, some interesting things I heard was I think Tez Walker, who we ended up drafting in the 4th round, said that Nate Wiggins was the best player that he ever faced. So what I thought was pretty cool is the fact that Nate Wiggins is normally known for being an outside cornerback, and Tez was primarily a slot receiver. So when Clemson played North Carolina, they actually moved him into that nickelback role and played the slot receiver. So that just shows you a little bit about his versatility and how he can play both outside corner and the nickel position if he needs to be.
Sounds a lot like someone we already have.
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly,
that's a good thing though. That's a good thing.
I think Nate's going to probably end up on the outside, and because we probably want a little bit more of a physical presence there at nickel that can be a little bit more, play stronger and make more plays in the run game, because that's kind of his weakness right now. So I think we'll stick him back on the outside if we need to. We can always put in Marlon or Brandon in the nickel against the slot.
I could have sworn like before the pick was certain it was going to be Kool-Aid. I'm actually like, I didn't really have a lot of knowledge on the corners going into the draft this year. I was a little lazy with that this offseason. But after doing my research, I definitely think that it's the right pick. I think that while technically like graded higher, Kool-Aid just kind of had a little more of an off year, whereas you kind of saw the consistency building with Nate Wiggins. And any great player can have an off year, so that's nothing against Kool-Aid. But I'm interested to see how he fits into our defense.
Yeah, I think honestly think Nate Wiggins just is a better fit for our defense because Kool-Aid to me is more of that bigger nickel corner.
Yeah.
Not as quick, not as fast with that makeup speed, and that's kind of what we needed. We're good at to me, I think Kool-Aid is more of a Brandon Stevens type style guy.
Mm-hmm.
Really athletic, really strong, can come down and make tackles in the run game. But even Marlon's kind of like that too. But I think Nate Wiggins is that true cover corner that we never really have had recently.
And I mean, we've been saying it all season last year. You can definitely tell Marlon lost a step just because of the injuries. So adding that speed is key to like us continuing to be a good defense and just continuing to build under our new defensive coordinator,
Yeah, so I would say I'm going to go ahead and give that draft pick a solid.
I'll give it an A-. A-, something like that.
Something around there. I mean, at pick number 30, you don't always get the guy that you want, and a lot of times teams like to reach for because you're drafting later in the round, right. You tend to reach for players because you don't think they'll be around in that next second round pick. But luckily for us, Nate Wiggins fell right to us, and it was a player that, you saw the draft clock literally went for like 5 seconds and the pick was in. So as soon as they got to their pick, they knew, all right, we're not doing any trades. We got the guy we want.
Oh, I thank the quarterback thirsty league this year because that was the most unprecedented draft for quarterbacks I think I've ever seen. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, they needed the quarterbacks, but like, I don't know, man. Like, I feel like there was more of a panicked frenzy out of a couple of those teams. I heard that the reason the Falcons went that way was because they didn't feel if they had traded down they could get a quarterback. I heard that with the Broncos, I'm a little sketched out about that pick, but I heard that Sean Payton really, really does like Bo Nix, and he does seem kind of like a guy that he could work with. But basically, my point being is, I've never seen 6 quarterbacks taken in the first round, and there is no way we would have gotten Nate Wiggins if that hadn't happened.
Not just the quarterbacks, but even, offensive players in general. I think it was like the lowest amount. I think 23 of the 32 picks in the first round were offensive players, which is like ridiculously like way off the regular scale.
The old record was 19. So
yeah. And the first defensive player didn't get picked until after the top 10 picks were, I think it was like number 13 or 14 or something like that.
Yeah. It was the Colts at, I think, wherever they picked.
Yeah. 15. They were 15, I think. Yeah. And they got Lata, UCLA guy.
Really great guy. Yeah, dude. I was actually defending the Penix pick the other day, and I've thought about it. I still think I know the Falcons didn't need a quarterback. I understand their logic behind why they got him. And honestly, I can't fault them. I could have taken someone better. They could have taken what's his face, the edge. Dallas
Turner.
Yeah, Dallas Turner. They could have taken him. They could have gotten Roma Dunze, but I don't know, man. Michael Penix, he's 24. He's kind of pro ready, but like
I would argue Michael Penix is right up there with Caleb Williams as the most pro ready quarterback in the draft class.
And I think that's why he's the perfect pick, because 1 to 2 years behind Kirk Cousins, and these might not even be full seasons. Kirk Cousins could get hurt. He might not play week 1, or they could just have I think the Falcons are going to be really good, and maybe in 2019, Penix might get a fourth quarter every once in a while. You know what I mean? So I don't necessarily think they'll be as good as we were, but I'm just saying there might be certain games that
I just don't. I have a hard time agreeing with picking a guy in the top 10 that doesn't make your team better right away. And
I think
as far as we know, he's not playing anytime soon.
Yeah, but think about it like this: Kirk Cousins is rehabbing still, so he's probably going to get a good amount of shots in OTAs. Probably going to get a good amount of playing time in the preseason, and who knows what's going to happen during the normal season. We lost 20 quarterbacks last year, so
they're also paying Kirk Cousins a guaranteed $100 million.
Right. Well, I don't know. I think that it's very immature to just expect that as a rookie you're going to start in the NFL.
If you're a top 10 pick, pretty likely.
I understand it. I understand he's a top 10 pick, but I don't know, man. That's a really good situation.
If I put myself in Michael Penix's shoes, though, I would be pretty upset.
Tyler, you're telling me if you got drafted by the Falcons this year, you'd be upset?
If I was Michael Penix, I would be.
He's making top 10 draft pick money. He's probably going to.
Yeah, but it's not just about the first contract. You got to think about your second contract.
Yeah, but I don't know, man. I don't know. For some reason, I just think it's a really wise.
You are definitely in the minority in thinking that. I haven't seen really anybody back the Falcons with that pick.
But I think that the right thing for a quarterback anyway in their rookie year is to sit behind someone, no matter if they're pro ready or not. Nothing is going to hurt you sitting at least 1 year. I understand 2 to 4 years is kind of rough. I don't think Kirk is playing for 4 more years. And again,
I think there's a chance Kirk Cousins plays till he's 40, whether it's with the Atlanta Falcons or not. I think.
Well, now it won't be.
Well, I just think the style of his play, he's had 2 injuries his whole career. He doesn't get hit a lot. He gets rid of the ball very quickly. He doesn't take a lot of sacks. He doesn't take a lot of pressures and hits because of how smart he is. He's got that type of ability to play well into his late 30s, into being a 40-year-old quarterback in the NFL.
Right. I don't know. I don't know. If I was a Falcons fan, I wouldn't be as pissed as most Falcons fans seem. Maybe I'm naive.
I said, you are in the minority.
I definitely am in the minority. I will admit to that. I'm not going to argue that, but I'm just saying I think it's going to work to the Falcons and Michael Penix's benefit in the next 2 or 3 years. Because think about it like this. Let's just say that Michael Penix gets 3 years riding bench, right? Then he gets 1 year to play. And he doesn't do well, so he doesn't get a second contract. People are going to be like, oh, well, he didn't really get a great chance to develop. So what he'll either do is someone else will take a chance on him, give him a 1 year prove-it deal, where I think he'll probably be fine. Or he'll just end up like Jordan Love. I don't see, Michael Penix's skill is too good for him to not succeed when he plays. You know what I mean? And I think he got sent to a team that's built to be good for the next few years. And I think that when he does get his chance, he's going to earn that contract because he's already just on a team that kind of seems like they're going to be going places. You know what I mean?
I disagree, but I know what you mean.
Well, think about it like this. There's no team on paper better than the Falcons in that division right now. Maybe the Bucs.
Well, the good thing is that their quarterback is Kirk Cousins, and I think he's going to be pretty good.
We'll see. We'll see, man. Anyway, this isn't about the Falcons.
Yes, let's get into our second pick. For the second round, we were able to get Washington's offensive tackle, Roger Rosengarten. He actually played right tackle the last few years since Michael Penix was a lefty, and that was his blind side.
Mm-hmm.
He started out as a left tackle, so he can play both. He's another. It's funny. He's similar to Nate Wiggins in the fact that he also needs to add strength. That's his biggest weakness. But he's excellent. His biggest strength is his pass protection. He's a pass protector, offensive tackle. We just got to get him stronger for our run game.
Right.
But I think he's going to be able to do that. He's very, very athletic. He ran the fastest of any offensive tackle at the combine with a 4.92 40, which is ridiculous. Which I really like because we really like to put our offensive tackles out on the edge and blocking corners on a lot of either screens or just misdirection plays where we pull that tackle out. And Morgan Moses was really known for just going out and just manhandling corners or safeties. And that I think is going to be pretty much Roger Rosengarten's strength.
And the thing with him too is that he's like you were telling me the other night, he's one of those plug and play kind of tackles. So he will definitely get a lot of opportunity to play this year and really, build that chemistry with the rest of the offensive line and eventually hopefully take over for Ronnie Stanley.
Yeah, what's really incredible is the fact that it was in Washington's offense, which was a very, very pass-heavy offense, and never once in his college career gave up a sack.
Yeah, I know. That's pretty impressive.
That's incredible. He's obviously going to face a lot better pass rushers, but that being the Pac-12, he went against Liate Latu from UCLA.
Right.
So he went against some decent talent there in the Pac-12. It wasn't like he was going against some chumps, but I really think the biggest thing for him is just going to be getting stronger, which I think he's got the frame to do. And it's just a matter of getting in our system and getting in our strength and giving him like a specific plan for himself with our new strength and conditioning coach.
One thing also that will give him a little bit of an advantage as he kind of gets better, or as he gets more experience, is that he's blocking for Lamar Jackson, who with the run game can.
Don't forget.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry as well.
Yeah, Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. So, they're going to make sure that he can block the run.
We're not going to have to worry about Falele just whiffing on dudes.
I still want to give Falele a chance.
I think Falele is just fine as a backup tackle. I just don't think he has the foot speed. He was more built for Greg Roman's offense because of his size.
Mm-hmm.
He's literally like the opposite of Roger Rosengarten in the fact that he's more size and strength and no athleticism.
Right.
Where Roger Rosengarten is pretty much all athleticism and lacks some strength.
Right.
So then let's go ahead and give that pick a grade. I'll go ahead and give it a solid. I think it could be higher down the road, but right now I'll give it a solid B+.
I'll give it like a B, B-. I just, because of the fact that he's not necessarily as strong as he could be, but also what I was going to say before I lost you, that's kind of what they said about Tyler Linderbaum, was that he was undersized and kind of got beat a lot because of that and kind of lacked some strength, and look at him now. So.
Yeah, and I think it's another thing, the fact that Monken runs a different style offense from Greg Roman, and we're trying to kind of transition to that more athletic offensive tackle. Ronnie Stanley would have fit Monken's system perfectly when he was healthy as a rookie coming up and was playing at that level. So hopefully Rosengarten can kind of play similar to that. All right, so next third round pick, Adisa Isaac. He is the edge opposite of Chop Robinson out at Penn State.
If it weren't for another pick we made in this draft, I would say this would be our steal of the draft. Yeah. I don't know how the heck he fell to us.
Yeah, no, it was just another one of those, it didn't take long for us to get our pick in. We were rushing to get that one on. I was watching the post-draft press conference with DaCosta, and they were saying how one of their scouts or top scouts had him as their red star player, which, if anyone knows, every scout gets a red star to place on one player in the entire draft, and that's like a guy that plays like a Raven, and they would stand up on the table for, and that's their guy.
Right.
And Adisa Isaac was one of those guys, which usually in the past, I want to say those types of guys, those red star guys, are like by far and away they have a really good career.
Right. I think that also speaks to our scouting and drafting department. Like, how have we been so consistent on finding these like insane defensive players that no one's heard of? Well, I mean, they've heard of him, but like no one's really heard of, or no one's really had on their board until 3 years down the line, like Matabike, they're just like beasts in Baltimore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and don't get this guy confused with Odafe Owe coming out of college, because Odafe Owe was almost the exact opposite in the fact that Odafe Owe was pure athleticism, freak athlete, combine freak, where
Right.
Adisa Isaac was more so just production. He produced for the last, 2.5 years of his career. He was starting and putting up really big numbers. Since
Right.
2022, he recorded 69 pressures and 13 sacks and generated a 13.1% pass rush win rate. And then even in the run defense, he posted a good 11.4% run stop percentage, which was fourth among all edge rushers in college football.
I'm excited for our edge rushers this year, man. Bringing Kyle Van Noy back, having Owe, having hopefully Ojabo, now having Isaac thrown into that rotation.
The other thing about Isaac that's different than Owe was very, very raw with his pass rush skills. And, he kind of was just relying purely on his athleticism and his speed, where Isaac, he has got really, really good hand placement and has really good, versatility with his pass rush moves. And I think, I don't think Chuck Smith was with the Ravens when we drafted Owe. And if he was, he may not have even wanted to put his name on it. But I know for a fact in the press conference, they also stated how Chuck Smith was like all drooling over the fact that he was able to coach this guy.
Right. That was like my next thing I was going to say. I'm Chuck Smith. So this dude's just going to get that much better.
Yeah. And I know Isaac was talking about it. Adisa Isaac was talking about it in his interviews with the press, was the fact that him and Owe played together and, they were, really close. And so that'll be cool to see them team up again. I'm going to go ahead and give that draft pick there as Adisa Isaac. I'm going to give him a good, honestly, I think, like you said, that probably is my favorite pick of the draft. I'm going to give it an A+.
Yeah, I'll give it an A+ as well, because I think in another, like last year or the year before, he might have potentially been like a low first round pick, and we got him in the third. Although my favorite pick of this draft is the next one.
Okay, so the next pick, fourth round pick, first of the two fourth round picks that we had was Devontae Walker, otherwise known as Tez Walker, wide receiver from North Carolina, UNC Tar Heels. He actually just transferred there for his final year, and there's a big uproar about it because he wasn't initially eligible, ruled by the NCAA at first.
Mm-hmm.
I forget why, but he transferred from Kent State, I believe. I remember watching him at Kent State and saying how freaky he was there.
Right.
But then when he got to North Carolina, he showed he could do it at the ACC level. And this guy is just a speedster, deep vertical threat. He had 10 receptions on throws 20 plus yards downfield, which ranked third in the ACC. And he's just a huge big play threat.
His only issue that I've heard is maybe sometimes his hands aren't what they need to be, and that's why he was probably picked so low. But oh my goodness, if we can get him out there and working, have him and Zay Flowers and Bateman out there on the field at the same time, we have our possession guy with Bateman, we have our yak guy with Zay, and we have our deep threat now with Tez.
Yeah, the one thing that when I've seen Tez play that I really liked is the fact that you can tell he is very, very hungry and competitive, and it shows on the field. Like, he is not afraid. And I feel like as a wide receiver in the NFL, you can't have a guy that's shy or,
right.
You know what I'm talking about is Brashad Perryman effect. You can't be like that. You have to be a guy that's knows that you're better than the guy across from you, and you attack the ball and it's your ball.
Right.
And not only that, but he's going to be a guy that can catch the ball and make a guy miss and go the distance.
Yeah, man. This is just a confirmation of what we were saying last week and what everyone's been saying. We wide receiver in the first round because the wide receivers in this draft are so deep. And like he might be a starter by the end of the year. He might already be like penciled in as a starter.
Yeah, so I mean, right now it's Rashad Bateman, Zay Flowers, Nelson Aguilar, and then after that, I'd say it's then you got Deontay Hardy we just signed, who's more of a special team guy, but can be a gadget guy as well. But I think Tez Walker, if I had to guess, is going to come in before Hardy and be that fourth guy to start the season.
Right.
Unless we, make another move free agency wise, which who knows.
We could maybe late. There's been talk of possibly OBJ.
Yeah, I know a lot of Ravens fans are like, "Oh, let's get OBJ back," and I'm like, "Dude,
we get Tez working, we won't need OBJ."
I honestly, for one, OBJ played 30% of the snaps last year offensively. I don't think he wants to be a part of that type of. I think he wants a bigger role, so I don't think he's going to want to come back to Baltimore. And secondly, we can't afford him.
Right. This Tez Walker is my Red Star draft player. I'm giving him an A+. He's my favorite pick of the draft.
Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely agree with you there. I'm going to give him an A for that pick. And, like you said, I think the biggest thing for him is just making sure he gets his hands right. I don't think he really had too many issues until this last year. Even at Kent State, I think he was really good with his hands. I think it might have just been, he had a lot of pressure on him this year with the NCAA allegations, or not allegations, but, the troubles that he had transferring and not being able to get into a groove probably with practicing and all that. And then I think even they said at the Senior Bowl with the Reese Senior Bowl, he struggled a little bit, but I think he came back on his pro day and showed some really good things with his hands.
I think that right there is why he dropped so low, because if he had stayed at Kent State one more year, he might have been like a second rounder.
He really would have probably, and he wouldn't have had to, sit out any games. But everything happens for a reason, and he's a Baltimore Raven now, so
yeah.
We'll take it.
Awesome. All right.
Next fourth round pick is TJ Tampa, a corner that was slotted by many as a day 2 pick, and we wound up getting him with our second fourth round pick on day 3, which was pretty crazy. I think the only reason he slipped was because of some low combine numbers, low 40 time. His biggest concern is just going to be that makeup speed, which is really like the opposite of Nate Wiggins. He's a bigger, more physical corner, very, very highly skilled in man coverage. Iowa State pretty much gave him the keys to doing that.
Right.
He was I think. So he was at Iowa State, and you got to know he played some really good receivers there in the Big 12, and really held his own there. A guy that I did recruit Nate Wiggins out of high school as a wide receiver and TJ Tampa as a wide receiver. They both played wide receiver in high school. Really? So I'm assuming both of them have pretty good ball skills because they did back then.
Right. I guess they just got. I mean, yeah. I always love seeing like a corner or like a linebacker who used to play like wide receiver or running back, like Patrick Queen did. Because it just, they have a whole different kind of brain. They think like the receiver or the running back, and they're guarding the receiver now, so.
Yeah. I think, TJ Tampa's probably going to be a guy you see subbed in more for the run packages to start, and then slowly, try to get him into more passing situations. But I will say this is our second corner taken in this draft. So it's going to be interesting to see what the competition is going into training camp with all the other corners that we've had, with especially guys like Armour Davis and who's the other one I'm trying to think of?
Pepe Williams.
Yeah, Pepe Williams. Both those guys, have struggled with injuries, and so it'll be interesting to see how that position pans out. There's only a certain amount of guys that we're going to be able to keep, so
I think
I'm assuming. I'm assuming these rookies will probably get the nod if it's a tie, but
yeah, I feel bad because coming out of college, I really like Jalen Armour Davis, and that first training camp, I heard that like Pepe Williams was one of those guys who was just going to come out there and like be like one of those underdog players, kind of like Brandon Stevens ended up being, and then the injuries hampered him too. So it does suck, but I think we did end up getting 2 corners that are way more solid than the two we had before. I mean, obviously Wiggins, he's going to be a starter eventually, but I don't know, man. I feel bad because I can imagine a scenario where Armour Davis and Pepe Williams both played, and they both probably would have been great. I think though the person who's probably going to get edged out is probably Pepe Williams.
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to come down. You know what I think is going to happen? I think, the same thing that happens every year with injuries during training camps. One of those guys is going to get hurt, and that's kind of going to make the decision for them.
Right.
We also have, I think, another corner that got hurt, Trayvon Mullen.
Yeah.
Who was injured all of last year on the IR, I think before the season even started as well. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah, I think he's Lamar's cousin, right?
Yeah, Lamar Jackson's cousin. Yeah, I'm maybe if like one of them show enough skill, they could get moved to safety. But we also
see there's probably some undrafted guys that we are also looking at. So
it's going to be a tough competition.
Yeah, what's your draft grade for TJ at Tampa?
So to be honest, everyone from TJ to Kane, I didn't really know much about until after we picked them. But after watching his tape and kind of looking at like his highlights and stuff, I'd probably give him like a solid C+ or a B- in terms of skill. But like for our team, if we're just saying strictly for like the team itself, then I'd probably give it a B-.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing here for me with the draft grade is going to be its value. And I think the fact that he was a guy that some people had as very high, second round pick for, and we were able to get him late in the 4th round. I'm going to give that a grade of an A just for the value.
Okay. This next guy is your Red Star player.
Yeah, so it's funny because I know in our pre-draft podcast I talked about Rasheen Ali for Marshall, running back. We got him in the 5th round here. He has been at Marshall and been just a freaky running back for like 3 years. I think he since 2021. So he's got a lot of miles on him. I will say that. But over the last 3 years, he's had 69 carries for over 10 yards. That's crazy. I'm familiar with him for the fact that he's been in the Sun Belt for the last 2 years at Marshall, and I watch a lot of Sun Belt ball since they compete with my Coastal Carolina guys. Luckily, Rasheen Ali hasn't really damaged Coastal too much when we played him, but I've just seen highlights of him, and I think he's going to be similar to the Keaton Mitchell factor of a G5 running back coming in. He's going to show some burst. He is coming off an injury in the Senior Bowl where he, I think, ruptured his bicep. They said he should be fine, though, for the training camp.
Good. I from what I've seen, he's just one of those guys who's just got the jets,
He's a guy that can do it all. He can run, he can pass block, and he can go out and run routes. So I think the biggest thing is, I would say Keaton Mitchell, not a pass blocker.
Right.
Justice Hill, I love the fact that he's willing, but he doesn't have the size to be a pass blocker. So it's going to be, I think, pretty much, you're not going to put Derrick Henry into pass block because you don't want him getting rolled up on. I think he could be that guy that comes in for those situations, especially early on in the season when Keaton Mitchell is still not healthy.
Yeah, I think that also with like the screen game, him being just like a good pair of hands, I really think we are going to unlock the screen a little bit this year. And I think that based off of how we've been drafting and kind of building the team last year and this year, and the fact that Todd Monken really didn't get everything the way he wanted to last season, I think I just think the screen game is like the next thing to open up for us. So I think players like Rasheen Ali are great for that, because that's just a whole different side of the game that Ravens fans really haven't seen a lot of.
Yeah, definitely. What's your grade on Ali?
I would give him a solid B.
Yeah, I like it. I think for me it's going to be a B as well. My only concerns are his injuries, just because of the fact that he's coming off that injury in the Senior Bowl, and then actually over his last 2 years in college, I've noticed he's had a few injuries that has kept him out of some conference play.
I gotcha. Well, like you said, he's been heavily used. So that's the one thing that really sucks about drafting a running back. Um, Sometimes they're just in college, like the college wants to run the ball constantly. And then they're
Yeah,
kind of.
Marshall hasn't had a quarterback for the last few years, and so they really relied on their ground game. I do think uh, he's not going to be relied on in our offense as that guy. So if we can get him in with some fresh legs, that could really, bring him back to his young form at Marshall where he was a beast.
Right. I think that, like you said, it's just more so he's like one of those plug and play guys, and if we keep him fresh and we just don't overuse him, he'll be fine. And then who knows, maybe if someone gets hurt or if Keaton is taking a little longer to get back, maybe he'll get an opportunity or two and we'll find something special in him too.
Yeah.
They always talk about the two-headed monster. Why can't we have a four?
That puts us at 4 running backs now too on our roster. So it'll be interesting to see how many we keep. Well, I guess technically Keaton Mitchell will start on the PUP list most likely, so that would put us at 3. I'm sure they add a undrafted guy or maybe someone else, but
right.
5th round pick. Moving on, we've got quarterback Devin Leary from Kentucky, but I still, like I mentioned to you, I consider him an NC State quarterback because he was only at UK for 1 year there. He did. Let's see.
Palmer was not too happy about him, but
yeah, he's a Louisville fan, so it makes sense.
Yeah. But I'll be honest. This pick kind of perplexed me. But maybe I'm just putting a little too much faith in Malik Cunningham. Maybe he's just not a quarterback.
Yeah, I think it didn't sound too confident in Malik Cunningham at the end of year press conference as a quarterback. I feel like they're probably like, oh, we gave it a good chance to wait and see. Maybe Lamar was the guy that really backed him because they played at Louisville after Lamar. I remember because whenever I was coaching, I watched a little bit of Louisville film. I was not too high on Malik Cunningham. I think going into his senior year, then he really just came on the scene that year and played really well that last year. But his junior year, I didn't think he looked great. So I think he definitely probably had a lot of room to grow. I thought he was very inaccurate as a quarterback, but just very athletic guy. So I think it's really Harbaugh said after the presser, the post-draft presser, Josh Johnson is right now, he's the number 2. Leary was brought in to be a number 3 guy.
Yeah. And honestly, if that's what we need him for, that's what he'll be there for,
Yeah, I think his biggest strength is his big arm.
What was that dude that we had a few years ago who had a little bit of popularity behind his name? He was our 3rd string quarterback who he might have played 1 game when everyone got hurt. The white dude.
How long ago?
It was 2 or 3 years ago. He was a white guy from where was he from? Fudge. He was kind of famous.
The only guy that I can think of is not 2 years ago. Is back when we had Ryan Mallett.
No. Rest in peace. But the dude that we got, where did he play in college? I can't see if I could remember the college. You'd know it. Maybe he was a Notre Dame guy, or something.
We did have Jimmy Clausen for a minute.
No, he was the dude who he was a mobile quarterback. Penn State guy. Who was the guy who we got from Penn State?
Oh, McSorley.
He kind of reminds me of Trace McSorley in the sense of not his ability, but just what we're going to use him for. He probably won't see the field much, if at all. And if he doesn't, that's a good thing. And if he does, I think he's solid enough that he could be confident.
Apparently, this was purely a T. Martin pick. It sounded like from the press conference. T. Martin was really, really high on this guy.
Really?
Yep.
Why? Did he say?
They didn't really give a reason. That I can recall. I just remember them saying that he really liked him, and they really valued his opinion.
Okay. So. Well, I respect T. Martin, and again, I haven't really watched a lot of Devin Leary outside of a little bit. He seems solid. I don't really think we needed him. I'm gonna give this probably a C.
Yeah, I'll give it a C plus just for the fact that T. Martin gave him his vote of confidence. So we'll see how that goes. I do think it's definitely, I like the fact that you pick a quarterback that can throw the ball over more of a running quarterback at that stage of the draft. Because if you do need him, you're probably going to need him for an important, game. Like you said, Trace McSorley. McSorley was needed in a playoff game at the one time that he was needed, and
Right.
he crapped the bed. So
Right. That's true.
I need somebody that can be a little bit more of a thrower than a runner. So that brings us to the next
wide receivers like Tez Walker.
Yeah. That brings us to so Larry was our 6th round pick.
But he was a comp pick from the Jets.
Right. And then our next pick was 7th round, our first of 2 7th rounds. Nick Samak from Michigan State. He is an interior offensive lineman. I think he was a center. Yeah, he's a center, so he'll probably play center and guard. He only allowed, 1 sack and 13 pressures on 345 pass blocking plays in 2023. In the run game he was at his best on pulling. He earned a positive grade on 33% of his reps without a single negative grade play while executing run blocking concepts.
Okay. Alrighty. Well, we definitely need interior. I think that he'll probably, if he ends up seeing the field, end up playing guard, but it doesn't hurt to have someone who can play center as well.
But don't forget, we also lost Mustafa.
We did, didn't we?
So I think he could kind of replace that role.
That backup center / backup guard role. Okay.
Yeah. He'll probably be a guy that starts off the season on the practice squad, and then if there's an injury, gets called up.
Unless someone steals him.
That could happen, but
yeah.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. We have a lot of interior offensive linemen this coming in this year with kind of like all have been backups, especially last year. We had Voorhees, we have Sala, we had Tyron Manning, I think is what his name was.
I don't remember him.
Yeah. And then we still have Ben Cleveland.
Yeah. I think so. What do you think our O line is going to look like week 1 then?
I think it's still early to say, but as of right now, I would say you got Ronnie Stanley and we've got Roger Rosengarten at both tackles. And then I would say your guards would be Ben Cleveland and Voorhees. And then your center is Linderbaum.
I got you. Yeah, well, obviously. Yeah, okay. I think that I would like to see, like, everyone's kind of penciling Voorhees in. I haven't seen anything from him. I know he's pretty good, but he did get hurt. It's
hard to say for that position. I think that's the one question mark right now.
Right. But hey, we went from 2-3 days ago having Ronnie Stanley and Tyler Linderbaum, and now we actually have like a legit other tackle, and we can plug everyone else in as needed.
You also have McCary, who I think can play some guard.
I think I love McCary so much. I wish he would get his chance to start, but I also understand why he doesn't get a chance to start. I just hope he's happy with his position on the team, because
he's making good money. We gave him a great contract for it.
Oh yeah, and he still gets to play a lot. So
oh yeah, the way we like to rotate. So I would give that grade probably a solid, B- just for the fact that we're kind of unsure on that last spot. You never know. This guy could be the starter day 1. Who knows?
Yeah, really could be. I'll probably give it a C just because, again, a lot of unknowns about the offensive line. Seems like a really, really solid player. Good numbers. You never have enough depth at O-line,
Nope. That brings us to our last pick in the 7th round. Sanusi Kane, who is a safety from Purdue. He honestly, I think he's a local. He's from, no, I'm thinking of the undrafted safety we got. So Sanusi Kane looks like he played. So let's say PFF says he played 1,700 snaps over the 3 seasons at Purdue. He has 70.1 PFF run defense grade, which is, I guess that's kind of his strength. if it's, from what I've kind of heard about, from based off the press conference, is that this is going to be more of a special teams guy.
That's fine. I know in the group chat, you and Palmer the whole time were like, where is our safety? Where is our safety?
Yeah, I feel like I would have rather picked a quarterback in the 7th round and a safety in the 6th round.
I can see that. I don't know much about Kane. Like you said, he's going to be a special teams guy, which is actually, it's pretty big this year because special teams is going to be very different. And special teams was our weakest link last year. Almost cost us against the Texans, or could have cost us against the Texans. Could have cost us a lot. So anyone who can add to that room and be a solid player there, I welcome it,
Yeah, he's going to have to come in and he's going to have to really take on that role, because if you're in the 7th round, you're not coming in to play quality reps. You're coming in to be that special teams guy, and you have to really honor that role and take ownership of it. If you don't, you're not going to be on the team for very long.
Look at what Brock Purdy did. He almost got cut. Now he started in the Super Bowl last year. So you never know.
A lot of people, I think, Eric DeCosta compared Kane to Haruki Nakamura.
Oh, yeah?
So Nakamura came in and was like, I guess, a 7th round pick, and he really made a name for himself in special teams. And that got him eventually onto the field playing defense and was a pretty solid safety for us. So if he can do that, that would be a huge, huge thing for the Ravens and Kane. Right. I don't see him playing over the 2 safeties we have, but you never know if he could get in on a package or two.
Right. Or, I hate to say it, but you never know with injuries either. So,
yep.
Marcus Williams is Mr. Invincible, but
yeah, I'll give that pick right there. I'll give it a solid C, just because I wish we would have gotten a safety earlier.
I agree, but I also could say that this was the guy we wanted, and we knew we could get him late. So,
All right. So with that in mind, what do you give our overall draft grade?
I will give our overall draft grade. So this is kind of how I think about it. I think about 2 things. 1, how many players are going to impact us directly this year? And 2, how many players are going to impact us directly in the next 3 to 4 years? And I counted like 5 players, literally all of the first 5 picks, from Nate Wiggins to Rasheen Ali, all being players that can impact us within the next 3 years, with question marks on everyone else below that. And I had pretty much everyone except for Rasheen Ali before that being players that could impact us well this season. So with that being said, I'd give us a solid A+. I know, that could be a little biased, but I actually really do think, out of all the picks we had, there were really only one that I questioned. So,
yeah, I think for me, it's going to be an A-, just because I think going into the draft, a lot of fans were hoping we would get an offensive tackle in the 1st round. And, it just didn't fall. The board did not fall that way for us, and we weren't really aggressive in moving up. And, it worked out the way it worked out, and we're going to have Rosengarten there most likely as a starter. And I think he's going to take some lumps early on. I think he's going to, the speed of the game is going to be a lot different for him. I do think he's going to figure it out, but I think it's going to take him some time.
Well, it even took like Penei Sewell like a year to kind of get up there. So it's expected.
Yeah, so I'll give him that. And then the fact that I think there was a lot of good receivers there in the 2nd and 3rd rounds that I would have liked, but we didn't really get a chance to take. I think especially early 2nd round was when a lot of those guys came off the board.
I know that what's his face that the Steelers got,
Roman Wilson.
Roman Wilson was one that I was kind of bummed that we didn't get. But I think overall, just like we had a really good draft in terms of value this year.
Yes, we did.
And I think that we never were going to trade up tackle because we knew we could get our guy in the 2nd round, and we really needed a corner. I think we would have taken a tackle if like one of the big guys had fallen to us, but I don't think that was like what we want, like what the plan was. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's just how the board fell, and I think DeCosta did a really good job, and I think we're going to have a lot of good players that are coming out of this draft.
I do too. What do you think? So you've been on top of this. I've been working the last day, so I haven't really followed any of the undrafted rookies.
Right. So let's go. I'm just going to go down the list. And if you notice them or want to say something about them, just let me know. And I'll let you know if there's anything that I know about them, because there's going to be a lot of these guys I have no knowledge of. All right. So first on the list here is long snapper from Kansas State, Randon Plattner. Started for 3 years at Kansas State. That's all I know about him.
Okay. Nick Moore is still on the team, or did we like?
I think it's a camp body. Yeah, I think it's more of just. And you never know, Nick Moore could get hurt just like Tyler Ott did.
Well, no, Nick Moore got hurt.
Nick Moore got hurt and Tyler Ott came in just like that.
I think it'll be good coming off an injury for him just to have a little bit of competition. I don't think there's really any risk of him losing his position, but competition is always good. So
you never know. Justin Tucker came in undrafted and look where he is now.
Right.
Next, tight end Riley Sharp from Oregon State. He is a 25-year-old graduate who took a 2-year church mission before beginning his college career and was a linebacker for the most of his career and transitioned to tight end just for his senior season, where he caught 7 catches for 113 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Okay. Good for him for doing the mission. I've had religion come back to my life recently, so I definitely understand that. Doubt he'll really make the team, but again, good for him for being an undrafted signee, and give him hell, man. Give him hell, and maybe you'll find yourself on the practice squad.
Yep. So that brings
I think the one thing is just he's 25, but then again, we also drafted Hayden Hurst at 25, so.
Brings us to offensive tackle Daryl Simpson from Tulsa. He is 6'8", 348 pounds, started every game this year. He spent 4 years at Oklahoma before being at Tulsa, where he only appeared in 1 game for Oklahoma and then transferred for his senior year to go to Tulsa.
What does he play?
Offensive tackle.
That is a monster of a man. I figured.
And he was also a top 30 visit for the Patriots.
Okay. Well, that doesn't really say much. It's the Patriots. Well, actually,
the fact that we got him undrafted and he was a top 30 visit for a team.
I shouldn't be mean to the Patriots either. Like, they haven't won like a Super Bowl every other year for the first 20 years of my life. But no, man. Again, we're kind of struggling to figure out what we're going to do with tackle. I think that as good as Falele is in terms of being like a good body, he's kind of the perfect guy where someone could just kind of sneak up right behind him and take his spot if they're good enough.
Yep.
And if he's a bigger body guy, but also kind of like has that athleticism, which it doesn't really sound like he really got a chance. I don't know if it's like an injury thing or if it's more of just a skill thing, but I think getting that final year at Tulsa will help him. And again, give it your best shot,
Yep. Next is safety Jordan Tolles from local Morgan State. 6'1", 205-pound ball hawk, had 3 interceptions and a forced fumble in 2023. He's a Baltimore native and was second on their team with 66 tackles and stood out on special teams.
What's the school he played for?
Morgan State.
Oh, Morgan State. Okay. Okay. Another safety. Always could use a ball
guy. Maybe got overlooked. You never know. He looks like he's got good size and playmaking ability and has the want to on special teams.
Right. Well, especially if he wants to be a special teamer, he actually might have a legitimate shot at making the team. So.
Yep. Next is another safety, Bo Braid from Maryland, who is actually one of the more highly rated safety prospects heading into the draft. And he's from the University of Maryland and went to high school at River Hill High School, local.
How did Bo Braid go undrafted?
Yeah, that's a big question mark. The Ravens are looking for depth behind Kyle Hamilton and Marcus Williams. So I think that, I honestly like him more than I liked the guy we drafted in the 7th round as a safety.
Right.
So I can easily see him making the team.
Fuck was that? Sorry, there's like a giant fucking bug flew by me. Okay. Yeah, no, I watched Maryland. He's always been really, really solid. I'm surprised he didn't get drafted. But I'm happy he didn't get drafted because now he's got a shot with us.
I think he is my favorite undrafted guy so far. Next is linebacker Ivandi Rigby from Temple, a native of Turks and Caicos. He didn't begin playing football until age 14. In 35 career games with Temple over 4 seasons, he totaled 205 tackles.
Okay.
Next up.
5 tackles.
Yep. Next up is running back from Lock Haven University, Chris Collier, who rushed for 1,393 yards and 12 touchdowns in 11 games last season and was also a reliable receiver out of the backfield with 22 catches for 238 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Not bad.
Yep. He's going to have to change his number from 22, though.
Yeah.
All right. D lineman Jamion Franklin from Duke. I think he's a defensive tackle. Had a career high 30 tackles in 2023 as an inside force on Duke's line. He was a consistent performer the 2 seasons, amassing 56 tackles and 4 sacks while playing 26 straight games.
That's one of the dudes that I've heard a lot of hype about.
I like that pick. I like his the fact that he played 26 straight games. That's pretty big, especially in that position because you're taking a beating every week.
Right. And he played in the ACC.
Yeah. And then next up, we got another Maryland guy. Technically, he started at North Carolina Central and then transferred to Maryland. Guard Corey Bullock, who started 11 games for Maryland in 2023, honorable All Big Ten. And he was actually from PFF given the highest pass blocking grade in the conference.
Yeah, I mean, blocking for Talia is, I mean, I honestly, I mean, he was solid. I don't remember him being like outstanding, but I don't remember him being crappy. I actually don't remember much about him, to be completely honest.
That's a good thing.
Sorry, I know. I watched Maryland and I don't remember our guard. But
next up, we have another Zay coming to us at the wide receiver position. Isaiah, otherwise known as Zay Washington from Rutgers, caught 25 passes for 321 yards and 1 touchdown in 2023. He's 6'3", 210 pounds.
Big guy.
Made several impressive one-handed catches at the Rutgers Pro Day.
Okay. So he sounds like he's just like technically gifted and a big guy. Is he speedy?
If I had to guess, probably not based off his production.
Right. I think that's probably what's going to shoot him in the foot with Baltimore because I think we're just looking for speed. Now, again, receivers are one of those positions that just have been cursed on Baltimore with injury. So, you never know who might end up being a depth piece.
It doesn't even sound like he started for Rutgers, and he's just in the NFL because of his size. So I'm not going to be counting on him to make any impact here.
Yeah, I don't know.
Unlike the next wide receiver that we did sign, Dayton Wade from Ole Miss, 5'9", 176-pound Wade ran a 4.4 at the pro day and is projected as a slot receiver. He caught 27 passes for 390 yards and 2 touchdowns and was dangerous running after the catch.
Okay.
So this could be a guy that maybe he's got some return ability as well. So it'll be interesting to see since we've got the new kick return rules, how that goes.
I think that honestly, we might be thinking ahead with some of these undrafted players with that new special team like kickoff rule because, I mean, we signed Deontay Hardy. We got a couple receivers undrafted, and we picked up a couple safeties too. And I think that, honestly, I mean, I don't watch the XFL, so I'll be completely honest. I don't really know much about their kickoff rule other than what I've heard it's going to be. But I'm going to do my homework and watch it because I'm very
so basically, I think the kickoff player, like the kicker, is going to still be at the same spot, if I'm not mistaken. But the actual, the other 10 guys on the kickoff team are going to start at like the 40 or 35 yard line going into the end zone.
Okay.
And so it's going to be less of a running start so that it kind of reduces impact.
I gotcha. And isn't it also so like if it's a touchback, it starts at the 40 or something like that?
That I'm not sure on.
I think they made the touchback rule like ridiculous so that you have to kick it in mounds. But I'm not sure.
Next up, we got another wide receiver who put up some ridiculous numbers while playing at North Carolina Central.
Okay.
which is a D3 school. He in 2023 had 75 catches for 1,353 yards and 20 touchdowns. He's 6'2", 197, and he set the North Carolina Central school record with 58 career touchdowns.
That's impressive.
I kind of like the way that sounds.
That's like one of those sneaky good players.
He was a first-team D3 All-American.
And NC Central, I mean, they're an HBCU, so even though they're D3, they're still getting some pretty good competition out there. You know,
yeah,
a lot of players are going to HBCUs now because they want to. So, like, I don't know if he's one of those guys who could have gone higher.
He could be a guy that could battle for a roster spot.
That's good.
Next up, a wide receiver with a very familiar name. His name is Tavion Robinson from Kentucky. Wide receiver. Robinson has had at least 40 catches the past 3 seasons and was extremely durable throughout his career. The 5'11" Robinson displayed reliable hands in college and an ability to make contested catches.
I don't really expect much, but I'd be interested to see him and his quarterback playing in the preseason.
40 catches in each of the last 3 years is pretty solid, I would say.
Oh yeah, no, he's sounds like he's solid. We signed so many undrafted receivers from what it sounds like. It's going to be a really crowded room.
Feast or famine.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Next, we got a guard, Darian Dalcourt from Alabama. Was a part-time starter in 2023, competing against top-flight competition in SEC. He's 6'3", 320 pound, and is a native of Haverty Grace, Maryland. So local guy, didn't really start full-time at Alabama, just came in when needed, it sounds like. So, yeah.
Okay.
Next up, inside linebacker Deion Jennings from Rutgers. He led Rutgers in tackles with 95 in 2023 and had 251 tackles during his career. He also showed his chops in coverage with 12 pass breakups and an interception. Could that be the next undrafted inside linebacker that makes the Ravens roster?
Quite possibly, man. Rutgers is... A lot of people look down on Rutgers because they forget that they play in the Big Ten. They forget they play in Michigan and Ohio State and Maryland and all those guys, you know?
I mean, he led their team in tackles and good pass defender. I like that. I think this guy's got some ability. Next, we got outside linebacker John McCartan from Oregon State, who had a very productive season in 2023 with 8.5 sacks and 47 tackles, and showed the ability to drop effectively into pass coverage as an every down player. So I like that guy. I think he, production. I love to see that, and he played at the Power 5 level. Next, you got D lineman Tramel Walthor from Georgia. He made 5 starts in 2023 as part of a talented D line rotation there. Comes from a winning program and won 2 national titles, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, he has some familiarity with Todd Monken, even though they're not on the same side of the ball. There's familiarity there. I think any D lineman from Georgia has to be respected, as well as O lineman. And you never know. He sounds like one of those guys who, like, I could very easily see playing at some point for the Ravens, like in a real game. I don't know if it's this year, but if he can fight and work his way onto that practice squad or like something, he could very well be like one of those future guys,
Yeah. Next guy is probably the guy that I'm second most excited to see here. That we signed, defensive end from Iowa, Joe Evans. He led Iowa with 9.5 sacks and 10 quarterback pressures and 13.5 tackles for loss. And let's not forget, Iowa's defense was really, really good. The Ravens have a strong history with Iowa players, and I think this guy could be a pretty good pass rusher for us.
I don't know. Some of these players, people forget how good some of these undrafted players are because of how few players actually get drafted.
So he was a defensive end for Iowa who played 4 down. And since we're mostly 3 down defense, he's going to be actually playing outside linebacker for us.
Okay.
And that concludes our list of undrafted signings as of right now.
How do you feel? How would you grade our undrafted signings? I know that's like
I don't really know how to grade an undrafted class because I don't know how to compare it to anybody else because I don't know what everyone else has done. But I will say there are a few guys on that list that I like and think have a good shot to make the roster.
I wouldn't necessarily grade it comparing it to. I would rate it based off of how, like what you said, how many players you see on there that could actually potentially like compete for rosters.
I think there's a good 3 or 4 guys that I can see, and I think that's a pretty solid number. I'd give it a B+.
Yeah, I mean, like Keaton Mitchell was undrafted, and
if you can get a guy like that just I mean, Ravens have always kind of done well in the undrafted.
Don't we normally don't we have a record of having at least one undrafted 53-man roster maker every year?
Probably. I mean, I don't really know what the record is, but I think we've been pretty consistent.
It's not like a record like versus other teams, but it's like 5 or 6 straight years or something like that. I don't know.
It goes way back.
I might be talking through my butt right now, but I feel like I heard something last year when we signed Keaton Mitchell to the 53-man roster.
Yeah, I mean, I know it goes way back. I was really excited last year when we got Keaton Mitchell. But, this year I'm looking, here's my top guys are Deion Jennings, Joe Evans, and, I kind of like D'Angelo Hardy, the guy that we said from North Carolina Central.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say Bo Braid from Maryland.
Yeah. I don't have that list in front of me, but I agree with you. There were a couple in there where, okay, you're here.
Yeah, the lineman is going to be hard to really tell because, stats wise, they don't really get a whole lot.
Yeah, I think it's just going to come down to toughness, physicality, and durability, And again, man, like we so constantly sign at least one undrafted player to our 53-man roster. I feel like it's probably going to happen again this year somewhere. If not, might have one or two of these guys on the practice squad, So.
Oh yeah, that's. I mean, if you're one of these guys, your goal right now is just to make the practice squad.
Right, and as a player, you make a practice squad. The sky's the limit because then you could just play for someone else or you get called up, whatever. So yeah, man. Overall, I think we had a really good week. I do apologize because I wasn't as invested in the draft this year as I had been in previous years. So I didn't know all of the players after round probably 2 or 3, kind of what we were looking at. But
I think it was kind of like that for most people. This draft class was just it was hard to get excited about a little bit.
I feel bad because I feel like I'm babbling about a couple of these players because I really have no clue, But at the same time, I complete 180 from last year or 2 years ago, before the Kyle Hamilton draft. Full faith in Eric DaCosta. Whatever he's doing, he knows what he's doing. He'll be okay. So
yeah. I'm excited to see the rookies come in for the rookie OTAs and see how that goes and see what they say, what the coaches say and all that. Who kind of stands out. Maybe somebody that we didn't really think would stand out does. And I think that pretty much wraps up this podcast here. And we'll see you guys next time, probably in a week or so. And, we'll go from there. But have a good week this week. And we will talk to you guys next time.
Keep your eyes open. Actually, schedule release should be coming in the next 2 to 3 weeks, probably at this point now. So pretty soon we'll get our schedule. We'll know who we're playing and when, and can start getting our tickets and all that. Tyler and I haven't talked too much on the details, but we have talked about maybe going to a game this year together and kind of getting some content because my and I was kind of unprepared to do interviews in a football stadium and all of that. But I think if we both go, we can get some really cool content for you. So I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. We're definitely looking into everything.
Talking about, So.
Yep, and I've got a new plug this year for film, so we won't have to jerry rig the NFL Plus anymore. We'll be able to get some legit film here. So
yeah. A lot of exciting stuff coming up. So anyway, guys, thank you for hanging in for an hour and 20 minutes while we talked about the draft. I hope you guys have a great week. God bless, and we'll see you guys soon.
See ya.